All right, option number 2, I think. Option number 2, you need a window. So you need paper, you need pencil, tape helps, scissors can help, marker can help, but really you need a window for this particular one. This is a lot like using the light box at school, except at home you don't have a light box, at least probably not, I don't. But I can use that window that's behind me to use it as a light box and use the light that's coming through the window kind of to backlight my drawing. So for this particular one, you need to make your design on a square or a triangle, okay? So the reason that we're doing that is because you're going to have a piece of paper, right? I chose to make this into a square here. I folded it in half this way, which I already did when I was making it a square, and then I folded it in half the other way. So that there are 4 triangles that are all the same exact size. In order to do a tracing, I need to have my drawing on another piece of paper besides this square one. So what I can do then, I need an additional piece of paper. I can make another square, exact same size, same type of paper, and then make it into a triangle. The 4 equal triangles, it's exactly the same as this other piece of paper. And then I can cut out one of the triangles, or 2 of them. So here's one where I cut off a triangle here and a triangle here. So that's how I made this triangle, that I know is exactly the same size as these triangles, because it's the same paper, okay? So I have this loose paper, I made a design on it. I didn't want this to be too complicated because I know that with option number 2, I'm going to be tracing a whole lot. Some notes about this particular one. So this is going to be the corner, so this is like the center of the square in the case. You'll notice that there's some pencil marks that I made here and here. On one side there's 3 little just kind of closed dot circles, and over here there are 3 open dot circles. Those are just going to show me to make sure that my triangle later, when I'm tracing it, is flipped the right way. I always want these open dots next to open dots. I always want these closed dots next to closed dots over here. All right, so that's going to be important. The basic thing that I'm going to be doing here is this is going to go against the window, and then my blank sheet of paper with the 4 sections is going to go on top of it. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Some advantages and disadvantages to using this particular style is that you need a window with light to make it easy. You need to trace it at least 4 times. So you're definitely going to be tracing this over and over, unlike option number 1, where maybe you have to trace it again, maybe not. It's easier with a simpler image, so that's a disadvantage. You can't necessarily do as complicated stuff because you'll get really tired out from tracing it so many times. Advantages of this, though, are that all the sections turn out just as dark as one another, unlike option 1 where you could see that it started getting lighter and lighter. And minimal smearing tends to happen with this one because you are getting nice dark solid lines from doing option number 2. If you have access to a window and this is the option that you would like to do to create your radial design, you're going to, ideally, it's easier if you can tape the triangle to the window somewhere. It doesn't have to be incredibly bright out. Right now it's overcast, but it's still going to be brighter than if I were just doing this on a table. Then I have a square design in this case with the 4 triangles. I could just hold this up here if I wanted to trace, but then your hands get a little tired, so it's kind of up to you what you want to do. So I'm going to take some more tape since I have it, and I'm going to tape this up here. It's just masking tape, so hopefully it doesn't ruin my paper. And then I traced this triangle with Sharpie in my case, or really, really dark. You can do it with really, really dark with pencil or a marker or something like that. It just makes it even easier to be able to see through the window. So I'm using the light through the window, and then basically all I'm doing is tracing my design. So the first one is pretty easy. And then I have to start caring a little bit more about how I put the triangle. I don't have to draw particularly dark if I don't want. I could draw fairly light, especially if I knew I wanted to erase some of this stuff. not doing a perfect job tracing, but it'll be close enough that it'll look pretty radial in design. All right, so I've now traced it once, including some guidelines that I made earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off of the piece. So most of this is my design, but I have 3 little open dots over here and 3 little just closed dots over here. Those are not going to be like part of my design per se, but they're going to help me make sure that I have this flipped the right way. So the next one that I need to do, if I'm doing it right next to it, if I just put this over here, I don't know if you can see very well, but there are 3 closed dots over here, but 3 open dots on the triangle if I put it like this. I don't want that, because I need the closed dots to be next to the closed dots. I need the open dots to be open, or next to the open dots over here. So I can't just simply put this here or put this here. It won't be right. So what I'm going to do before I take this on the window again under this side here is I'm going to flip it over. So this is the side that my marker actually is, and this is the side that's I can see my marker through it, which is part of the reason I used marker. If you use pencil and you just do it really dark, you can see the pencil through. So I'm going to take it, I flipped it over. Now, just before I put it on, I can see, at least close up for me, I can see that there are 3 little dark dots, 3 little dark dots. They're lined up, they're right next to each other, so that's exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to find somewhere to stick this tape on here. It's going to be a little harder to do to line it up just right. The more complicated your design is for this option number 2, the harder it's going to be to do all of this tracing, because you really do have to trace all 5 times. But this is like using a light box that we have at school. This is very similar in terms of what it allows you to do. You're just making your own light box over here. And then I have, oh, I covered my little 3 open circles here. Okay, so now I have 2 of the sections done. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that when it's against the window. So I have 2 sections here. It's a symmetrical design right now, which is good. And a lot of radial designs are going to be symmetrical also, but not every symmetrical design is radial. So now I had this flipped over here. So I had it marker side up, flipped it marker side down against the window. Now I need to flip it back where the marker side is up. Ooh, door. Because that's going to get me my open dot, my little markings there that tell me that it's flipped correctly, are next to each other. So open dot are next to each other. My closed dots are over here now. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to find some place that's relatively okay to tape it. All right, so now I've traced it for the 3rd time. I have almost an entire design. Part of the reason that we're flipping this is because even though I made this design and it looks very much symmetrical, I was going for a fairly symmetrical design when I was planning it, it's not actually perfectly symmetrical, just like we as people aren't perfectly symmetrical. So if I were not to flip it, it just wouldn't line up quite right. Like if you can see this edge at all, these triangles line up perfectly where their edges are. This lines up almost perfectly where the edges are because I'm flipping the triangle as I go. All right, I am all done. You can see how everything is pretty well lined up. Now I still have these guide marks, my open dots next to open, my closed dots next to closed, so you can see that I did turn my paper the right way, my triangle. So I got a fairly nice symmetrical and radial design where everything is coming out from that center point.